First Date is the 20th episode of the 5th season of Frasier. This is directed by Kelsey Grammer, and as always there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts. And it starts off with a feeling that I can completely relate because Frasier is trying to avoid spoilers for a TV show that he's watching, and I understand the pain too well. He goes home and he's about to sit down and hopefully spend time watching it, but Martin tells him that his goduncle has died. And Frasier's response was the same as mine. What on earth is a goduncle? And it's his godfather's brother. Makes sense when you say it like that. So he can't watch his show. He needs to go and pay respects to Martin. And Niles is in the kitchen with Frasier before they head out, and Niles is talking about his love of Daphne, and Daphne walks in and they think she heard what he was saying. And she did, but she didn't know he was talking about her. And it seems like there are a couple of moments in this episode actually where it seems like Niles might just be ready to tell Daphne, and he bottles it again and again, and he ends up telling her he was talking about a woman called Phyllis, and he phones Phyllis, but he's actually phoning his own apartment and leaving a message on the answer machine. And Niles, on the evening of his fictitious date, is at home. Daphne pops over very briefly, and she realises Niles hasn't even started cooking. And Phyllis is going to be over any minute. So, of course, Daphne, being kind and caring and helpful, tells him that she'll help get things going. And they're in the kitchen together, and we have a scene that I absolutely love where they're both chopping, I think, carrots and something else, and they're chopping in rhythm side by side, and they start singing Heart and Soul, which I absolutely love, and it's a really beautiful moment. And then there's a knock at the door, and it's Frasier. That's no problem. He's just come over from being with Martin to pay his respects for his goduncle. Frasier will understand, no problems. And then there's another knock at the door, and it's Phyllis. She's played by Caroline Aaron. She's somebody from the building. Phyllis is a real person, and she just got some of Niles' mail. And she obviously enters the apartment. Daphne says hello to her, and then Martin turns up, and Martin's heard all about this Phyllis, and he's making remarks, and suddenly Phyllis thinks Niles is attracted to her. So the only way out of this, and I say the only way, I feel like there might have been some other ways, but Frasier basically lied and said Niles was being accused of getting rid of his wife in a very criminal manner, and of course Phyllis leaves. She doesn't want anything to do with that. And it's just Daphne and Niles again. And they have a lovely conversation, but Daphne says something that I think is quite important, because she says first of all to Niles that she shouldn't have pressured him to dating Phyllis, and that he should just do it when he's ready and when he feels comfortable, which is great advice. But then she said somebody probably wouldn't want to date a man going through a divorce anyway. I know I wouldn't. And there Daphne has basically just said this is not the right time for Niles to ask her out, which is not what I wanted to hear. I mean, I know what happens going forward, but it's still not great to kind of put a stopper in that for now, and it's not a great moment, to be honest. But I think she made a valid point anyway. That's not to say you can't date somebody who's going through a divorce, but certainly with Niles's emotional response to the divorce and going back and forth and having counselling with Maris, and it's messy. So I think he just needs some time to be on his own. But clearly he can't stop thinking about Daphne, and she tells him that she is sure that sooner rather than later he'll be sitting down having dinner with the woman of his dreams. And she's right, because he's about to do that right now, because he asks her to stay for dinner. She might as well stay since Phyllis couldn't stay. They're cooking anyway. And she does, and it's really lovely, and it's really sweet. And this is the first time, I think, in terms of the order of the episodes, where I could look at them as being a genuine couple, where I could see that being a thing. Whereas up until this point, it's basically just been Niles ogling Daphne. There was one episode where she came over where it was very hot and things got a little bit heated. But this is the first time where it seems like one could easily imagine them being a couple. So it was a really lovely scene. And then we end with Frasier finally sitting down to watch the TV series with his popcorn, and Eddie's curled up next to him and eating popcorn as well. And it's very cute. It's a nice way to end things. It's a really good episode. I think First Date is very unpredictable. I feel like it's probably fair to say nobody would have predicted Phyllis turning up. I mean, maybe some people would have done, but it seems a little bit of a coincidence. But nevertheless, I rather enjoyed this. I thought First Date was a really brilliant episode of Frasier.